You know, I still can't believe this is where we study now.
I know. Every time I walk through Central Park, it still feels like we're on holiday.
Remember the first day we got here?
I remember getting completely lost on the subway.
You got on the downtown train instead of the uptown one.
In London, I'd spent years on the underground thinking I knew public transport. Then New York completely humbled me.
The subway here has its own personality.
Personality? That's a nice way of saying chaos.
Controlled chaos. Barely controlled.
Do you miss London?
Every now and then. Same. Mostly family.
Yeah.
My mum still sends me pictures of Sunday roast dinners just to make me jealous.
That's cruel.
Very. Mine keeps asking if I found a proper English breakfast. Good luck finding one here. I tried once. How bad was it?
They serve baked beans with maple syrup.
No, they didn't! They absolutely did! That's almost illegal! New York has grown on me.
Definitely.
There's always something happening.
Every street feels like a movie set. Because it practically is. Yesterday I walked through Soho and they were filming another TV series.
Again?
Massive crew, trucks everywhere.
That's what I love about this city.
You're never far from filmmaking.
Even walking to class feels inspiring. Back home we'd spend hours talking about making films. Now we're actually doing it. Well, attempting to.
Fair point.
Can you believe our first semester's almost over?
Honestly? No.
Feels like yesterday we were introducing ourselves in class.
Remember when...
Professor Hernandez asked everyone why they wanted to become filmmakers?
Some people had these really philosophical answers. Then I said, because Jurassic Park changed my life.
Which was actually a pretty good answer. Better than pretending I wanted to explore the human condition.
Dinosaurs are part of the human condition.
Exactly! We've actually come a long way.
We have.
Our first exercise looked terrible. The lighting was awful. The sound was even worse. I still remember the professor saying,
"This microphone appears to be recording from another dimension."
I nearly cried. Now it's funny. At the time, not so much.
Then came our documentary assignment.
That one turned out pretty well.
Because New York does half the work for you.
Exactly. Every neighborhood tells a different story. Chinatown, Harlem, Greenwich Village, Brooklyn. Every place has its own personality. Sometimes I forget we're actually living here.
Until the rent payment arrives.
Then reality comes back very quickly.
Student life isn't glamorous.
Tiny apartment, 3 roommates, broken air conditioning, washing machine that sounds like it's about to explode, but somehow it's worth it. What's been your favourite place so far?
Brooklyn Bridge at sunrise.
That's a good one. Yours? Honestly, Central Park.
Really?
Yeah. Why? Because the city disappears. Listen. You forget Manhattan is right there. Until someone rides past on an electric scooter.
Exactly.
We should film something here next semester.
Definitely.
Imagine opening with a drone shot.
Too expensive.
Right,
Student budget.
we'll climb a hill instead.
Actually, I've been thinking about our final film.
Me too.
I don't want to make another relationship drama. Everyone makes relationship dramas. Because they're cheap. I'd rather make something cinematic.
Like what?
Maybe a thriller. In New York?
Yeah. Night photography, long tracking shots, practical lighting,
That's exactly what I'm imagining.
or maybe something about two students trying to make a film.
That's dangerously autobiographical.
Audiences like honesty.
Audiences also like explosions.
I still love this thing. You've cleaned that lens more times than you've cleaned your apartment. Priorities, obviously.
Remember filming in Times Square?
At 2 in the morning?
There were still thousands of people. New York never sleeps.
It's true.
I actually love editing those shots. Especially the reflections after the rain. Beautiful.
Do you think our short film was any good?
Honestly,
Yeah.
I think the story worked. Yeah. The acting, pretty work? Better than I expected.
Always fixing problems. Battery dies, memory card fills up.
Someone starts using a leaf blower during your emotional scene, or an ambulance goes past, which in New York happens every 5 minutes. But somehow, it's magic.
Do you ever think about where we'll be in 10 years?
Every day. I don't want to stop after film school. I want to direct films people remember. Big films. Huge films. The kind that fill cinemas. The kind people watch over and over again.
That's the dream. It really is. I walked past a production crew filming something near Fifth Avenue. They had 2 huge camera cranes, a line of vintage taxis, and at least 50 Afura crew members. I stood there watching for almost 15 minutes before I realized I was running late.
That's exactly what I mean. You can never resist stopping to watch a film set. I was running late. See, that's exactly what I mean. You can never resist stopping to watch a film set. I probably would have done exactly the same thing, to be honest.
That's one of the things I absolutely love about New York. You never know what's happening around the next corner. One day you're walking to class, and suddenly you're standing 20 meters away from a major Hollywood production.
Do you ever stop and think about how strange our lives have become? Just over a year ago, we were both living in London, taking the underground every day, complaining about the weather, and dreaming about studying film abroad. Now, we're sitting in Central Park, surrounded by skyscrapers, talking about the student film we're about to shoot.
I think about it quite a lot, actually. Sometimes I still wake up in my apartment, look out of the window, see the Manhattan skyline, and it takes me a few seconds to remember that this isn't a holiday anymore. This is actually where we live now.
I know exactly what you mean. My parents still ask me if I'm enjoying my trip, and I have to remind them that I've been living here for nearly a year. It doesn't really feel temporary anymore.
Although there are moments when it still feels surreal.
Yesterday, I walked through Times Square at midnight, and it was somehow just as busy as it had been at lunchtime. I don't think I'll ever get used to the fact that New York just never seems to slow down. Compared to London, the energy here is completely different. London is busy, but New York feels like it's constantly moving at twice the speed. Everyone seems to be rushing somewhere important.
Exactly. Even people walking their dogs somehow look like they're in a hurry. I don't know how that's possible.
Maybe the dogs have appointments.
Probably more important appointments than ours.
You miss London very much?
I miss certain things. I miss seeing my family every weekend. I miss proper fish and chips by the seaside. I even miss hearing British accents everywhere I go. Sometimes I'll hear someone speaking with a London accent on the subway, and I immediately want to know what part of the city they're from.
I'm exactly the same.
A few days ago, I heard someone ordering coffee with a really strong East London accent, and it instantly made me feel a little homesick.
It's funny how something as simple as hearing your own accent can make you feel connected to home.
It really can. Although I have to admit, I've started picking up little American expressions without even realizing it.
You definitely have.
Really?
Last week you said apartment instead of flat, and you asked me to put something in the trash instead of the bin.
You're slowly becoming American. Excuse me, I still make tea properly, so I think my British passport is safe for now.
You know what I definitely don't miss about London? The weather. I remember weeks where the sky stayed completely grey. Here, even when it's cold, you still get these beautiful blue skies.
That's true, although I wasn't prepared for New York winters. Everyone warned me they would be cold, but nobody explained that the wind between the skyscrapers feels like someone opening the door to a giant freezer.
The first snowfall was beautiful though.
It really was. Central Park looked like something out of a Christmas film. We spent half the day taking photographs instead of studying.
I don't regret that at all. Some of those shots were incredible.
Speaking of photography, I've been looking through the footage from our last assignment, and I actually think we've improved a lot since the beginning of the semester.
I agree.
Do you remember our very first practical exercise? Unfortunately, yes.
The camera wasn't level.
Half the dialogue was impossible to hear because we forgot to check the microphone. One of the actors kept looking directly into the lens. And somehow we still thought we'd made a masterpiece.
We were incredibly optimistic.
I suppose that's part of being a film student. Every project teaches you something new, even if the final result isn't perfect.
Exactly. Every mistake becomes part of your education. I think that's what our professors keep trying to tell us. Nobody starts out making brilliant films. Even the greatest directors
Comforting.
had to learn through experience.
Because sometimes I compare our work to professional films, and then I remember they've got hundreds of people working on a single production.
We're lucky if we can convince 6 classmates to help us carry lighting equipment across Manhattan.
That reminds me of the day we filmed in Brooklyn.
When we carried all the equipment over the bridge.
Yes, we looked like we were moving house.
Camera bags, tripods, lights, microphones, backpacks. I thought my shoulders were going to fall off by the end of the day.
Then it started raining just as we finished setting everything up. I honestly thought the entire shoot was ruined. Instead, the rain made everything look even better. The streets reflected all the lights, and suddenly the whole scene looked cinematic. Sometimes nature accidentally becomes your production designer.
One thing I love about New York is that every neighborhood feels like a completely different film.
That's such a good way of describing it. Soho feels stylish and modern. Greenwich Village feels artistic and relaxed. Harlem has incredible history. Brooklyn feels creative and independent. Then you've got Central Park,
where you can almost forget you're in one of the biggest cities in the world.
Exactly. Every famous location becomes part of our story too. If someone had told 16-year-old me that I'd be sitting in Central Park, talking about directing films in New York, I probably wouldn't have believed them.
Neither would I. But maybe that's the exciting part. Sometimes the biggest dreams start with two students sharing a coffee in the middle of a park.
You know what I was thinking about last night? In just a few weeks, we'll have summer vacation. And for the first time since we arrived in New York, we won't have assignments due every other day.
I've been thinking about that too. It almost feels strange to imagine having that much free time.
Honestly, I don't think I'll know what to do with myself if nobody is asking me to finish an edit by midnight. We've become so used to constantly working that relaxing almost sounds unfamiliar.
I don't think either of us is actually capable of relaxing for very long. Even if we weren't at university, we'd probably still be out filming something every weekend.
You're probably right. The camera would somehow end up in my backpack anyway. I always tell myself I'm just going out for a walk, and then I end up filming street scenes for 3 hours because the light looks too good to ignore.
So, have you decided where you're going during the holidays?
I think you already know the answer.
Los Angeles?
Absolutely. Ever since we started film school, I've wanted to spend some time there. New York has been incredible, but Los Angeles feels like the place where every filmmaker eventually wants to go.
I've wanted to visit since I was about 12 years old. I remember watching behind-the-scenes documentaries, all those enormous studio lots. They almost seemed like magical places where movies were created.
Every film we grew up watching seemed to have some connection to Los Angeles. It almost became this mythical destination in my mind.
Imagine actually walking through one of those studios instead of just seeing them on YouTube.
That would be incredible. I don't think I'd stop smiling all day.
Have you ever been to California before?
No, never. The closest I've been is watching hundreds of videos about it online. I know what the streets around Hollywood look like. I know where the major studios are, and I probably know the layout of Griffith Observatory better than I know parts of London.
You've definitely done your research.
I have. Every time I need a break from studying, I somehow end up watching videos about filmmaking in Los Angeles instead.
Well, I can't really judge because I've been doing exactly the same thing. Can you imagine what it would feel like if one day we walked onto one of those studio lots because we were directing our own film instead of visiting as tourists?
I've imagined that moment more times than I can count.
Honestly, yes. Sometimes when I'm walking home after class, I start daydreaming. I imagine pulling into a studio early in the morning, seeing hundreds of crew members preparing for the day's shoot, walking over to the monitor, and knowing that it's my responsibility to bring the story to life.
That sounds amazing.
I imagine standing there with a coffee in one hand, looking at a giant set that took months to build, and realizing that hundreds of people have come together because they all believe in the same film.
That's what excites me most about directing. It's not just telling a story. It's bringing together so many creative people who all contribute something unique.
Exactly. A great film isn't made by one person. The director might guide the vision, but every department adds something special. The cinematographer creates the visual language, the production designer builds the world, the costume designers shape the characters, the composers create the emotional atmosphere, and the editors somehow transform hundreds of hours of footage into a coherent story.
That's one of the reasons I fell in love with filmmaking. It's probably the most collaborative art form there is.
You can't make a huge movie completely on your own.
Speaking of huge movies, if someone gave you a $300 million budget tomorrow, what kind of film would you make?
That's actually a difficult question.
Take your time.
I think I'd make a science fiction, but one that focuses just as much on the characters as the spectacle. I love massive visual effects, huge spaceships, and incredible action sequences. But if the audience doesn't care about the characters, then none of the explosions really matter.
The emotional story always comes first.
Exactly. You can spend millions creating the most beautiful visual effects ever made, but if people don't connect emotionally, they'll forget the film within a week.
I think I'd probably direct something a little different.
Really? What would you choose?
I'd love to make a historical epic. Huge, practical sets, thousands of extras, beautiful costumes, and massive landscapes. Something where every frame looks like a painting.
That actually sounds incredible.
I love films that transport you into another world without relying entirely on computer-generated imagery.
There's something special about practical filmmaking. Actors seem to perform differently when they're standing inside a real environment.
Exactly. You can feel the difference.
Well, I think we've attracted our first audience member.
I don't think he's interested in our screenplay. He's definitely here for my lunch.
That's fair. New York pigeons are surprisingly confident.
I've been meaning to ask you something important.
Go on.
After nearly a year in New York, what has become your favourite New York food?
That might be the hardest question you've asked me all semester.
It's a serious discussion.
All right. If I absolutely had to choose, I'd probably say pizza.
I knew you were going to say that. There's just something about New York pizza. The crust is thin, the cheese is perfect.
And somehow every little neighborhood pizza place seems to make an amazing slice.
I still remember the first slice we bought after moving here.
What about you? Pizza or bagels?
That's not even a difficult decision.
Bagels?
Definitely bagels.
Really?
Absolutely. Freshly baked, still warm, with cream cheese and smoked salmon. I honestly don't think I've ever had bagels this good anywhere else.
I have to admit they're excellent.
Every Saturday morning, I walk to the little bakery near our apartment, and the smell alone is enough to make me hungry.
I've noticed you've developed quite a weekend routine.
Bagel first, then coffee, then editing until midnight.
That sounds exactly like a film student's lifestyle.
A year ago, we were talking about London cafes and afternoon tea. Now we're debating pizza and bagels like we've lived here our entire lives.
Maybe that's what happens when a city slowly becomes part of who you are.
I think you're right.
You know, every time we sit down and start talking about films, I end up feeling even more motivated than I did before. It's almost like every conversation reminds me why we came all the way from London to study here in New York. Whenever classes become stressful or deadlines start piling up, I try to remember moments like this. They remind me that everything we're doing now is preparing us for something much bigger in the future.
I completely agree. Sometimes it's easy to get caught up worrying about grades or whether our latest assignment is good enough. Then I stop for a second and remember that we're actually learning the craft we've dreamed about since we were children. We get to spend every day talking about films, making films, and improving our skills. There are so many people who dream about doing this, and somehow we've been lucky enough to turn that dream into our everyday life.
Do you remember the very first film you ever made?
Oh, I definitely remember it. I was about 13, at years old, and I convinced my young brother, to act in a ridiculous action movie that I wrote over one weekend. We filmed it in our back garden using my parents' old camcorder.
What was it about?
It was supposed to be this huge spy thriller with secret agents, mysterious villains, and dramatic fight scenes. Owl of Down. The problem was that we only had one actor, one plastic toy gun, and absolutely no idea what we were doing.
That sounds brilliant.
It really wasn't. Every fight scene looked terrible because my brother couldn't stop laughing. Half the shots were out of focus, and I accidentally filmed one entire scene without turning the microphone on.
That actually sounds like a pretty normal first film.
It was awful, but I absolutely loved making it. I spent weeks editing it on an old laptop, adding terrible sound effects and dramatic music that didn't match anything happening on screen. Looking back now, it's honestly one of the worst films I've ever seen, but at the time I thought I'd made the next blockbuster.
I think every filmmaker has a story like that. My first film wasn't much better. My parents let me borrow a little digital camera, and I decided to make a ghost story inside our house. I remember turning all the lights off, hanging white bed sheets over furniture, and asking my cousin to play the ghost.
That actually sounds quite creative.
It would have been, except my cousin kept tripping over the bedsheet every time she tried to walk.
Instead of looking frightening, she looked like she was trying to escape from a laundry basket.
Trust me, you really don't. I think my parents still have it somewhere, and I hope it stays hidden forever.
It's funny how those little projects eventually led us here. At the time, we were just kids having fun with a camera. We had no idea that years later we'd be studying filmmaking in New York and planning careers in the industry.
Sometimes I think that's the best way to begin. We weren't thinking about awards or careers back then. We were simply telling stories because we enjoyed it. I hope we never lose that feeling, even if we end up directing much bigger productions someday.
I hope so too. I think the best directors never forget why they started making films in the first place.
When we finally visit Los Angeles this summer, what's the very first place you want to see?
Without a doubt, the Hollywood Hills. I know it sounds like a tourist answer, but I've wanted to see the Hollywood sign ever since I was a kid. It's one of those places that represents so many dreams. Every filmmaker recognizes it instantly.
I want to visit Griffith Observatory. I've seen it in so many films that it almost feels familiar already. I'd love to stand there at sunset and look across the entire city.
That would be incredible. Then after that, I'd love to tour some of the major studios, even if it's just the visitor tour. I think it would be inspiring to see the sound stages where so many famous films have been made.
Imagine walking through a studio and accidentally seeing a real production in progress.
I don't think I'd be able to stop looking around. I'd probably spend the whole day studying how the crew works together instead of paying attention to the tour guide.
Do you ever think about what our first professional film might be?
Quite often, actually. I know it probably won't be some enormous blockbuster straight away. We'll likely start with smaller projects, maybe independent films or television. But I hope whatever we make has a story that people genuinely care about.
I feel exactly the same way. Success isn't really about having the biggest budget. It's about creating something that stays with people after they've left the cinema. I want audiences to keep thinking about the characters long after the credits have finished.
That's always been my favorite kind of film. The ones that make you want to talk about them afterwards. Or watch them again because you notice something new.
You know what I hope never changes?
What's that?
I hope that no matter how successful we become, we never lose the excitement of simply picking up a camera and creating something together. Right now, we don't have huge budgets or massive crews, but every project feels exciting because we're discovering new ideas every time we shoot.
I completely agree.
Sometimes limitations actually force you to become more creative. When you can't solve every problem with money, you have to solve it with imagination. Some of the best shots we've ever captured happened because we had to improvise.
Like that scene in Brooklyn when we used a bicycle light instead of a professional spotlight.
I still can't believe it actually worked.
It ended up looking surprisingly cinematic.
You know, when we eventually become directors, I hope we remember what it felt like to be students. I want everyone on set to feel respected, whether they're the lead actor or the newest production assistant.
I think that's incredibly important. Every person on a film set contributes something valuable. A great director doesn't just tell people what to do. They create an environment where everyone feels inspired to do their best work.
Exactly. The atmosphere on set becomes part of the film itself. If everyone enjoys coming to work, I think that positive energy somehow finds its way onto the screen.
You know, one day it would be amazing if we look back at this conversation and realized we'd actually achieved everything we talked about.
Maybe we will. Maybe 10 years from now, we'll be sitting at another table, this time somewhere in Los Angeles, talking about the premiere of our latest film, instead of our student assignment.
And maybe we'll laugh about how we once worried whether our short film's audio was good enough. Or how we carried cameras across Brooklyn because we couldn't afford a taxi. Or how we survived almost entirely on New York pizza and bagels.
That might actually be the biggest achievement of all.
No matter where life takes us after graduation, I don't think I'll ever forget these afternoons in Central Park. They've reminded me that filmmaking isn't only about cameras, scripts, or special effects.
It's also about the people you meet, the conversations you have, and the dreams that slowly become plans.
I couldn't have said it better myself. We came to New York hoping to learn how to make films, but I think the city has also taught us how to believe in ourselves. Every street, every project, every challenge has brought us a little closer to the future we've always imagined. Whatever happens next, I know one thing for certain: we're only at the beginning of the story.